Thanks for tuning in. This is Go Atlas, sobriety, motivation, and everything in between. And my name is Josh. Today I want to talk to you about staying true and most importantly, staying true to yourself. Sometimes I get scared. I stare at my son, and as you've probably heard before, I want to give him a better life than the life that I had. And I want to give him more and more opportunities. But that being said, it's going to be awfully hard because my parents were freaking amazing. My dad was a man's man. He's a big dude, bald head, kind of like me. Or I should say, like I'm like him with my bald head. He looks like Mr. Clean, though I don't think he could pull off all white. He works with his hands and his clothes are torn. He's a contractor, but that's by day. At night, he wears a different uniform and heads into a max security prison where he is a correctional officer. He put in his time in that hellhole long enough to retire, and he retired, pretty young. I always look at the things that we had or could do for granted. You're told not to take things for granted growing up, but you can never really truly appreciate them unless you put blood, sweat, and tears into building your own empire. So let's get this straight. He started at 7 a.m., got done by 3 or 3:30, depending how the job went during the day, and always left around 10:15 at night to relieve the guy working a little bit early from the second shift at that shithole, which is the prison. For 20 plus years, he had 6 hours a day to get stuff done around the house, see my two brothers and myself, and I forgot, sleep. Who needs that anyway? He did have Saturdays and Sundays off from building houses, but the prison had a weird schedule, and some weekends he had to work at night and had 2 nights off during the week. It always varied. And my mom, good God, she was an angel. While my dad was off busting his ass at work, my mom busted her butt at home, making sure that the house looked like a set of a Martha Stewart cooking show. There was 3 boys tearing it apart, dirtying every piece of clothing that we had, and all the while we ate like Vikings. We were a very, very busy group, and we were always into something. We never went without. Food was always perfect, and to be honest, it was probably better than most restaurants out there. Our clothes were always cleaned and put away neatly. And in between all of that, she always loved us with her whole heart. And to this day is 100% fair. And I'm 35 years old, and even still when I don't feel good, I just want to talk to my mom. You could say I'm a mama's boy. And in between all of this, she had a side hustle. She was a transport service for my brothers and I. Charity, I suppose, with the payoff being smile on our faces. I played basketball. I ran track and cross country. I was in band. I was also in a rock band outside of school. A lot of my sports had leagues in the off season, so I doubled up on what I was doing. Cross country in the morning, basketball game at night, and then travel basketball, and then track, and then band practice, and on and on and on. This was just me. I had 2 younger brothers, but at the same time, I was only concentrated on what I was doing in my world and not how my parents were holding it all together. So where exactly am I going with all this? Despite all the busyness and chaos, my parents never missed a single event I can remember between myself or my brothers. Games, concerts, art shows, matches, meets, you name it, at least one of them was there. And if both couldn't make it, it was because the other one was at one of my other brother's events. I had the perfect childhood and upbringing and still fell to alcohol. All I gotta say is fuck addiction. Sometimes there's no reason for it. I think a lot of times when people fall to addiction, they look for what went wrong, or they look into history, or someone tries to pick apart every little thing. Were you abused as a child? Did he have a bad temper, or are you anxious? Are you depressed? Sometimes there is no reason for it in your past, like all the counselors try to find out. Sometimes it's just as simple as shit. I like to drink or use. I'll never ever forget after I quit, my parents asking me, Josh, where did we go wrong? My heart seriously sank. I can assure you that no one or nothing would have stopped me from drinking or what I was doing. What helped put me back on the right track was appreciation of all the things I just spoke about. All I had to do was be reminded of who I was and to stay true to myself. If you tell me that you have nothing to be appreciative for, then fuck you, think harder, because there is. Even at your worst, you're still breathing. I wrote this in part to thank my parents for reminding me to believe in my future self and to promise to do as much as my parents did for me, for my children and my wife. Thank you so much and love you all. If you like the content that I'm putting out, please hit subscribe to the channel. You can be notified every time I put out a new video. I know this one's a little bit more sentimental, but I just want to make it clear that there's not always something wrong. Sometimes you like to fucking drink. Thank you very much.